This is Food for Thought with Deborah Walker. Hi, this is Deborah Walker. This is Food for Thought. And I have a guest with me today who I met on my travels at a Mind, Body and Spirit fair. I have the owner of Superfoods7, Justin Zalewski. How are you, Justin?
I'm great, thank you. And thanks for having us on your show. I really appreciate it.
Well, I'm just really pleased to have you here, to be honest, because I know we're going to have a brilliant conversation. Now, just give people an insight into your background and why I might have actually invited you on, because I'm sure once they know about your background, they're just going to understand completely.
Right. I'm just wondering how far back you want to go here. Let's go back about 10 years or more. I, at one stage, had no idea that nutrition even mattered. Anytime I ate food, I only ate because of how it tasted, and I just wanted food to entertain me. And I didn't realise that anything else had any relevance in my body. I then attended a seminar way back, I think it was 2003, and on one of the days the guy talked about nutrition, and that seminar, I think that day cost me about £1,000, and it really inspired me about nutrition and health and what was capable. But the guy was really sincere, but what I found out after researching more and more was that he was sincerely wrong. And if I actually had followed the data that he was talking about, I actually probably would have made myself sick or ill. And this guy was a bodybuilder who had won many competitions. And he was giving you a great diet if you wanted to bulk up, look big and build muscle very quickly. But it had nothing to do with health, although he thought it had. Mm. And I started that journey. I started reading and researching about more and more different things. I went to different seminars on health. I went out, and my criteria for learning anything is find who's the best person on the planet at what they do and go and learn from them. So I had a company for many years, and I thought that I owned the company, but in reality the company owned me, and I got caught in the owner's trap. So eventually I just decided I actually don't want to do this anymore, and so I sold the company. And in a period of 15 months, I was on 85 planes and helicopters. I probably spent around $200,000, and I just got to meet some absolutely incredible, phenomenal people at the top of their game. Mm. And it just inspired me to go and learn more and more and to constantly push the boundaries. And one of the things that I try to do every day is how do I take my health, nutrition and vitality to a higher level? And so as I went along, I've just learned more and more, and I've been able to apply that to such a degree now that I have more health and vitality now than I've had when I was 17. I have an abundance of energy. I never get sick, and I just feel absolutely amazing and energized all the time.
Now, I have to say, you looked much younger than your age. And you were actually talking to me at the show where I met you about your metabolic age and how you'd been freaking someone's mind out, to be absolutely honest, and reducing it even further the next time you met them. Now, tell my audience what you're actually doing to keep yourself at that optimized level, because you really did look good, I have to say.
Yeah, well, what you were talking about there was that I was speaking at an event, and there was another guy there that could test your biological age. So the guy basically tested my biological age, and I tested 17. But a week later, I was speaking at the Waterfront Hall in Belfast, and I knew that the guy was going to be there. So I thought, let's try and get my biological age even lower. So one of the things that I did was I took MSM, which is methyl sulfonylmethane. I have an infrared sun in the house. I did that every day. I meditated every day for usually I would meditate for an hour to an hour and a half. I think one day I meditated for maybe 2.5 hours, and I just increased my intake of superfoods like maca powder, like spirulina, like ho shu wu and macuna purines. And I went back a week later, and he was there, and I went back to him and I said, right, can you test me again? And so he tested me, and he wouldn't let me see. And I just thought, what's wrong here? Why would he not show me? And eventually he turned the machine around. It said that it was 10. And I thought, that was pretty good. given that, I am 49, so I just thought I could take 39 years off my biological age. And this is a guy that, used to eat Kentucky Fried Chicken, used to eat McDonald's, used to eat microwave food and all that toxic junk, bars of chocolate and sweets. And, I had a really incredibly unhealthy lifestyle. And now I was able to turn that around completely. And it just shows that, with the right focus, the right attitude and the right supplementation, you can really reverse and basically rejuvenate and energize your body incredibly.
It's a fascinating story, I have to say. And now when I met you on the stand, you were busy explaining to a lady about the fillers in the supplements and the bodybuilding supplements, as you were pointing out. Her husband was consuming. Now, I'm surprised that people really don't read the labels and really don't know what's going into their body. But you're actually pointing out a lot of the ingredients that really, in that arena, you would think, when they're spending so much time working on their bodies to make them look good, actually they're putting in so much rubbish.
Yeah, what I find is that most bodybuilders take huge amounts of protein and eventually they're going to blow their kidneys out. I mean, breast milk contains around 5 to 6% protein, but bodybuilders are taking huge amounts and they're bulking up more and more and more and more. And the supplements that they buy, the commercially available ones, are all full of fillers and bulking agents and excipients and flow agents, and they're just really harmful and detrimental to your body. And yes, you may get bigger, but, is your goal to get big or is your goal to stay healthy? And they're two very, very different arenas. It's like people think just because they're really fit, they think they're really healthy. And you look at some of the example for like Lance Armstrong, and, there's a lot of controversy and stuff about, him taking different substances and stuff, but that was an incredibly fit man, but he was not healthy. And a lot of these supplements, I mean, if you don't understand supplements, there's a very, very easy way that'll get 99% of them, like they'll delete them out of the game right away. And if they contain things like magnesium stearate, titanium dioxide, silicone dioxide, or calcium carbonate, they're junk. And or else what they'll do is they'll take a very small amount of the active ingredient. They'll then bulk it up with all the rest of the junk and they'll sell this stuff. And in most cases, those supplements are going to do you far, far more harm than good. And I think one of the most horrendous things that I've seen in the supplement world is one day I was actually walking in Sainsbury's supermarket and I just walked through an aisle and I looked down and I saw these supplements or vitamins for pregnant women, and I lifted it up and it was security tagged so that nobody could steal it. And I just thought, like, when I read the ingredients in it, I actually thought, like, that is actually criminal what they're actually giving to pregnant women, and that stuff is actually going to be much more harmful than beneficial. It was just full of I can't remember the exact ingredients now, but under no circumstances would I give that to a pregnant lady. And not only that, I actually think it is criminal that they actually allowed to sell that junk, because it is really detrimental and it is going to have some sort of negative consequence on the mother and possibly on the child as well.
People have no realization that there is a big difference in the types of supplements that I would use, for instance, and the type of supplements that you buy on a supermarket shelf. You really do get what you pay for, don't you?
Yeah, I mean, I would say you do get what you pay for, but sometimes what they do is they creatively market stuff and they charge a very high price. And just for me, I mean, I think it is good to take supplements, but they have to be 100% natural food-based supplements. And the thing is that most of the supplements on the market are made by pharmaceutical companies whose major focus is to make money, and they're not worried about quality. They're only concerned about profits. And most of them are made synthetically, and your body can absolutely tell the difference. And the thing is when you take synthetic vitamins or supplements, it causes a reaction from your immune system, because your immune system realizes that it's a foreign object in your body and it just tries to eliminate it or get rid of it.
Now, It's almost in the same vein as the food being entertainment, supplements is entertainment in some respects, isn't it? You know, they're no better.
Well, I think what people really, like, there are people out there that genuinely really do want to take their health seriously. Mm-hmm. And so when they go out and they shop around, they look at the marketing. And the thing is that the marketing industry is so clever and so manipulative that they try to sell you the illusion that you're getting something when you're not. And they really are ripping you off and conning you. Mm. And the thing is that there are so many articles written out there that are deliberately misleading to keep people in the dark. And, you know, I mean, I have studied for thousands upon thousands of hours, and there's so many websites out there that are just, I don't know who writes them, but they're being paid by either the pharmaceutical industry or the supplement industry to write stuff that's absolute junk, pseudoscience. And I came across an article probably about 18 months ago, and I wish I kept the link because I wanted to put it and quote the person in a book I'm writing. And basically, what they did is they did research on a certain drug and how good it was for people, and it was signed off, and the report came out. But one thing that they forgot was that the doctor or the scientist that signed off on the report was. It was done before the clinical trials were ever done. And so this is not like the exception to the rule. This is where basically science has become whatever it is you're willing to pay for. And doctors will basically say anything if the check's big enough. And I think one of the most criminal things I've seen in America is the American Dietetic Association, who claims to be the largest supplier of nutritional information in the world and would like to promote themselves as a trustworthy source. And the thing is that when you go through it and you read it and you look at it, you realise that it sounds very good until you look up things like aspartame, E951, which is an excitotoxin, a neurotoxin, and incredibly harmful to your body. And they would say that it's okay. So I dug a bit deeper and I looked and went into it in great depth. And when you realise who their sponsors are, you'll realise why things that are totally toxic and poisonous are said to be okay, because they were sponsored by Pepsi, Coca-Cola, Hershey, Aramac, Johnson & Johnson. And I just went through, there was about 10 of them, all vast producers of sugared goods and junk foods. And these are the people that are funding them. And the most laughable thing that I found out of it all is that, especially they're in many universities as well, setting the standard of what becoming a nutritional therapist is and things like that. But then they had an expo or a annual show. And basically the criteria to get into it to promote your products is basically first past the post with the money gets the location, and you'll never guess who was providing the lunch for them. McDonald's, the food company from hell.
And I actually know that it's really fascinating what you're talking about at the moment, because their CPD talks, and what I mean by CPD for those who don't know is the continual professional development talks, are actually sponsored by junk food manufacturers, which absolutely astonished me. And they are brazen with that in particular, and that's no different than things like the Komen organization, who they're a charity in the States who effectively push for the cancer and the support of the war on cancer is partly where that comes from. And they sponsor the KFC pink bucket, which is just absolutely amazing when you think about it.
I know. I think that basically, especially, I mean, as though I've studied a lot about nutrition in the UK, but a lot of the stuff that comes up in the States, and you find people like Michael Taylor, who used to be the vice president of Monsanto, put in charge of the FDA, who's supposed to regulate the Food and Drug Administration to make sure that the food that people eat and the drugs that people take are safe. And to me, it's like putting the wolf in charge of the sheep. But again, it takes around $400 million to become elected to become president. So those people that have funded the the election campaign are all looking for a return on their investment. And so that's when you find that, laws that should be there to protect people magically disappear and get pushed through, at 5 o'clock on Christmas Eve, when nobody's watching. And to me, the whole food system is completely and utterly corrupted. And if you're relying on the government to look after your health, you're going down a road to nowhere.
Well, it's clearly been shown that there's a revolving door in Washington with the FDA and with their organisations, which are linked with GMO technologies and your junk food and things like this, your food manufacturers. And is it any different over here? I don't see that it is in many respects. I see that we have politicians who are very supportive of GMOs, and if you look into their background, they have a biotechnology background. Therefore, they're going to be actually more supportive of that arena. That's actually a conflict of interest. That isn't unbiased.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of them have shares in these companies and have a vested interest in these companies doing well in the UK. So laws that sort of get in the road and are there for the greater good of the people seem to magically disappear. And I think another thing that's, so wrong is like when you get somebody like Guy's Hospital that I think it's McDonald's or a Burger King in the hospital, reception area. This is like throughout the States and in the UK, they have junk food restaurants and hospitals. And, when you're in hospital, you need the optimal nutrition, you need to cleanse your body, you need to heal. And people are filling their bodies full of toxic waste. And you get things like, although there are so many different chemicals in the likes of chicken McNuggets, and it's all bleached and stuff, but they also contain a thing called dimethyl polysiloxane, which is what they use in silicone greases in breast implants. And the thing is, that stuff most definitely does not belong in the food chain. But again, people are so addicted, and especially the food scientists. The fact that junk food is so addictive is not an accident or, a side effect. This is something that is very, very strategically manipulated, where you get food scientists who manipulate the things like oral sensation, so they control the exact amount of fizzle and texture and the duration of the fizzle and stuff like that in the fizzy drinks. They control so many different parameters. The trigeminal nerve that stimulate the largest nerve in your face, that it is stimulated. Your tongue is stimulated in so many different ways, and they make them as highly addictive as possible. And then when they put in things like MSG E621, which works as a fertilizer for cancer and also is an excitotoxin, then they put in lots of really poor quality salt, like sodium chloride, and they put in lots of bad fats. That's just a recipe for absolute disaster, and people end up destroying their health completely. And it's something that, unless people accept full responsibility for their health, it's gone down a road where the government actually don't care. And the thing is, it's like even in Northern Ireland, I don't even know who the Minister for Health is. But the thing is that the Minister for Health doesn't know anything about health whatsoever. And you can see when you look at them, they look grey and they look like they're about 2 weeks off a heart attack. And to me, they lack any personal congruency. And unless you accept responsibility for your health, you're going down a road. And I heard yesterday on the radio, and I rarely listen to the radio because there's so much junk on it, but they said that now that one of those cancer charities said that the rate for people expected to get cancer now has went from 1 in 3 to 1 in 2. How long is it going to be that everybody's going to get cancer? Because this is a curve that's growing exponentially. And like 50 years ago, when people got cancer, it was like a rarity and it was the extreme. Now the cancer is like the common cold. It's like somebody knows somebody that's got cancer, or several people have got cancer all at the same time. And this is a completely avoidable disease, something that with the proper lifestyle, nutrition, cleansing and the right environment, you can almost reduce or completely eliminate your risk of getting cancer. I know I will absolutely never get cancer in my lifetime. Why? Because I don't do the things to my body that create the foundation for cancer to thrive. And, it's like you hear people that's, oh, well, my granny smoked until she was 80 and she never got cancer. Just because you smoke doesn't mean you're going to get cancer. But what it means is that you're just creating an environment where cancer can thrive. So when you take in the tobacco, when you take in the alcohol, when you take in the electromagnetic radiation from your microwaves, from your Wi-Fi, from your mobile phone, when you take in the stress, when you take in the junk food and the processed foods, eventually the body just reaches a tipping point where it's overwhelmed, and then you have a healing crisis. And then when you go to the doctor, they check you and they say, oh, we're sorry to tell you you've got cancer. Then the person freaks out, and then the cancer for the next 6 weeks will grow exponentially because they're so focused and there's so much fear and adrenaline being produced. But to me, it is a completely avoidable and in nearly all cases, I believe, a reversible disease.
There's so many points that I want to pick up on, and partly I want to pick up on the point that you've made about ministers of health who actually don't look healthy themselves. And I find that there's many people in the medical community who are promoting a health approach that actually are busy smoking, are overweight, and as you say, there are junk food outlets within our hospitals. It actually doesn't make any sense, yet it does when you see who benefits ultimately from this approach.
Yeah, I just think it's very sad that the people that are entrusted to look out for the people that don't actually understand how health works are the ones that are corrupting it the most. They allow fast food outlets in a hospital, or even, like I had I wouldn't say misfortune, the opportunity to be in a hospital a while ago where I ended up getting an infection in my finger, and I went there 4 days in a row, and they sent me back 3 days in a row, and the fourth day it says, we'll have to take you to theatre right now. And so the pain was that excruciating. I actually wanted to actually have it cut open without any anaesthetic, because I thought I could control the pain, but the doctor was very concerned and he wouldn't do it. So he gave me an anaesthetic to do it. When it wore off, I never felt pain like it. But then they took me up to the operating theatre, and they said, you can do it under local anaesthetic, or we can pump your stomach out and you come back tomorrow or whatever and do it. And I says, no, let's just do it now. But the next day I woke up and actually had the theatre, had the operation, went to bed that night, got up the next day, and then they offered you dinner. And I couldn't believe the quality of the food in the hospital. It was absolutely disgusting. It looked like this sort of soggy, marinated in oil thing that I think it probably started life out as a fish, but I don't know what it used to put on the plate. And the soggy mush potatoes and the veg, it looked like it, been sort of harvested about 3 weeks ago, kept in the freezer and microwaved and then reheated for the second time. And they kept me in. They actually had a cannula in my arm, like a drip. And I actually couldn't eat the food, so I actually had to. Eventually, they wouldn't let me out of the hospital. I wanted to go home to get the food, so I rang my sister, got her to come over and get me, sang myself out to come home to eat my food, to go back into the hospital, and then I just fasted the rest of the time because I refused to eat that junk. It just was not fit for human consumption. Actually, when I looked at it, I actually wouldn't even give it to a dog, because I actually think it would have been very unkind to even give that to a dog.
It's interesting when you say you wouldn't give that to a dog. I actually know that I fed my dog, who's no longer with me, but a far better diet than a lot of people actually eat, which is scary to me.
I know. I have a dog here, and I would feed it lots of superfoods. Now I would give it a base of, say, sort of some type of dog food, but then I would put in things like chia seeds, goji berries, pumpkin seeds, a little bit of flax oil or coconut oil, and I would do lots of different things. So sometimes the dog could be eating 10 or 15 different superfoods, in one day. But the dog is incredibly healthy, has loads of energy, has the most beautiful glowing radiant coat, and not that if the dog ever did get ill, I would never take the vet anyway. I would find some way of healing it naturally. But in my experience, the human food or the dog food, they shouldn't be consumed by either. They're so bad. And if you think that our food is bad, pet food, a lot of times, I'm not sure if they practice this in the UK. I think they do, but I can't be sure. But in the US, like a lot of those dogs that are euthanized, that are poisoned to death, those dogs just end up back in the dog food system. And so your dog food, is full of toxins and poisons and other dogs that have been poisoned and, put to sleep. And so I just believe if you have a dog, the only thing that dog should be eating is raw meat. And so I would buy the dog raw organic meat, and I would feed it raw organic meat at times as well.
And that's where I was with my dog. And I used to laugh, and my friends would laugh and say, my dog's body is a temple. And absolutely it was. She spent a lot of time meditating with me and doing dog yoga. I completely agree with that. So now I'm going to pick up on another point and that you brought up about food being addictive. And I spoke to someone a few years ago now when I first started doing radio, and they were part of a company that used to design foods and do exactly what you are talking about. And just recently I had a client on one of the groups that I run, and she was saying she just could not stop eating cheese and onion crisps. When she started, she couldn't stop eating them. So I asked about the brand, as I would do first and foremost, and I said, forgive yourself, don't worry about it. Let's have a look at what the ingredients are. And you can imagine what the ingredients are. One of them is yeast extract and effectively MSG. And you mentioned this. And the thing is that many people think that they are overeating, and they, particularly women, not so much men, but women, because that's the group that I tend to work with. And they feel very, very guilty. They feel bad for what is happening and what they're doing to themselves, yet don't realise that many of these foods are, as one of the adverts says, once you pop, you can't stop.
Yeah, and you genuinely and absolutely can't stop, because the chemicals in them are so highly, highly addictive. And like when you say about, when you pop, you just can't stop. And they'll say a lot of them now, people have realised that MSG, or monosodium glutamate, E621, is a nasty flavour enhancer. But the thing is, they've got 39 different names for MSG. And so yeast extract, isolate, different things. They've got so many different names for it that it's virtually impossible to tell whether it's got MSG in it or not. And I have researched so much about food and nutrition, and even when I look at some things, sometimes I think, there's just so many different names and so many chemicals in that and I just usually have a rule that, if there's more than 5 ingredients in it, it's most likely not fit for human consumption and shouldn't be eaten.
Yeah.
But no, the foods now are just so addictive, and they are opiate. They're like opiates, and they've been specifically designed that way because a junkie is a customer for life. And that's what they've really done. They've created food junkies. And those foods are so processed, so manipulated. And they're just... Another thing is that your body is craving nutrition, but what it's getting filled with is dead food that has no life force within it. And, if you don't understand food and you don't want to go into detail and you don't want to spend your life researching, the simple thing is, if it came from nature, there's a good chance you're probably going to be able to eat it. If you eat things that are fresh and in season, your body can take that intelligence and convert it and use it. But once you take food and then you manipulate it by cooking it, or by especially microwaves, to me, microwaves should be banned. The only thing that you can ever use a microwave for is to heat plates. But it's like, the thing is with microwaves, it rips the food apart several million times per second. And then once you eat that food, that process is still happening inside your stomach. So what happens is that you then treble your risk of stomach cancer. And, if you're going to microwave food, okay, microwave, but once you've microwaved it, take it and throw it in the bin so that your body doesn't have to process that toxic waste, because there's nothing of any nutritional value in it. And they did an experiment, not that I agree with this, but they got a dog and they microwaved its food and they microwaved its water for 2 weeks, and then after 2 weeks it died. Or you can microwave water and water a house plant with it for a week or two and see what happens. The plant will die within usually a week or 2 weeks, because the water's been completely obliterated obliterated, and there's nothing of any nutritional value left.
People are doing so much to themselves now then they really don't realise, do they, to a certain extent. I know MSG is bad because I have so many. I actually have a guide for all of the names to help my clients identify MSG. A whole page of them. That's how ridiculous it's got. Justin, this has gone too quickly as far as I'm concerned. Hopefully you'll come back on and you'll talk more with me about the last point I wanted to bring up about, which was cancer being an avoidable disease. So yep. I'm going to ask you to come back on at another stage. But in the meantime, how do people get in touch with you and buy your lovely superfoods that I didn't even touch on today?
I know we can talk for hours and hours and hours. My website is Superfoods7, the number 7.com. If anybody needs to contact me, it's info@superfoods7.com. And I have a blog there where I write articles about supplements, about different things. And if anybody needs to contact me if they have any questions, if they drop me an email, I will respond to you. It may take me a while because I'm very busy at times, but if you do send me an email, I will respond to you.
Perfect. Thank you very much for coming on Food for Thought.
Okay, thank you very much for having me, Debs. I really appreciate it.